it starts in my childhood for me. I have been drawing ever since I could hold a pencil. I love illustration and fine art and painting and uh, Studio Ghibli's films specifically
Mm,
embody everything I love about cinema. I'm a classical musician as well. I
yes.
was a co-composer on the film, and they have beautiful hand painted backgrounds, beautiful drawn animation, amazing music, Joe Hisaishi scores. So the love for Ghibli came from it encompassing all of the things that I was passionate about. And not
Mm,
just Studio Ghibli, but the early works of Walt Disney,
mm,
the films that he directed. So Snow White, same
right.
beautiful music, beautiful hand-painted backgrounds, beautiful character animation. Pinocchio is one
Right.
of my favorites. There's a lot of influence of Pinocchio as well in the film
Right.
Geppetto and Pinocchio in their workshop. Very much Vincent and Tomas, his father, in their workshop. And then, of course, just when I was growing up, the discovered Studio Ghibli was actually in Pakistan. VHS tapes, when we would rent them, a lot of it would be pirated. They wouldn't be official. So I rented this video with the Bugs Bunny cartoons, Merry Melodies. And then when that ended, because it was a televised broadcast, when that VHS ended, Kiki's Delivery Service would start, but halfway through the movie. So when I was young, I didn't know what the movie was called. I didn't know anything about Studio Ghibli or the director. I just saw this movie
Mm,
halfway and I said, "What is this? This is amazing." The way it looks, the way the music is, that started my fascination with Ghibli. And then in the West, Princess Mononoke came out, Mononoke Hime, and that's where Ghibli started becoming more and more popular. And then, of course, Spirited Away came out, won the Oscar as well. So I was just completely entranced by uh, Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata's films because I started researching about Studio Ghibli, what they are, Toshio Suzuki, the genius producer behind most of these movies, and
mhm,
that the integrity in the movies, that's what always resonated with me. There was just something so special about every film, whether it's Only Yesterday, which is one of Isao Takahata's most beautiful films, or
mm,
Pompoko, which is this amazing, ridiculous, heart touching movie. And then, of course, all of Hayao Miyazaki's movies are so amazing. I
mm,
think I just wanted to be a part of that world. And in Pakistan, there's no hand-drawn animation industry.
right.
People are doing it now, but it's more independent. There's no real government sanctioned or support. There are no big studios investing in it. And especially when I was starting the Glassworker in 2013, there was next to nothing. It was just passionate people like me and a few others who just wanted to do this. I have all of the Ghibli storyboard books, so I understood how the films were made. And for me, it was just, I want to be a part of this world and I want to make animation, live action. I even storyboarded like animation, the two short films that I made. But I just thought animation would be so difficult to do in Pakistan. But when I started coming up with the Glassworker, I said this cannot be any other medium but animation.
Mm,
So that's why I decided that no, time to pull up my sleeves and just make this animated film in the that can be reminiscent of all the films that I grew up watching and that I love so much. Because I have such a strong understanding of how animation is done. Like
mhm,
I grew up reading about it. I have so many books on it. I have all the behind the scenes documentaries as well. When I went to Ghibli in July 2015, I sat in the cafeteria and showed my portfolio of drawings to Shin Hashida, who is the curator of the Ghibli Museum and was also acting as Hayao Miyazaki's assistant during that day.
mm,
He saw all my drawings and said, "You know, you know what you're doing. You understand animation. You're uh, all the illustrations and image boards and storyboards that you made for the film, they're good, but I wouldn't recommend making this film in Japan because if you work in the Japanese animation industry, you're
Mhm.
going to be starting from scratch and
Mhm.
you will have to build up your repertoire and build your experience where maybe in 6, 7, 10 years, maybe you will be in a position where you can direct a movie because
Mhm.
you can't just come in and direct a film. Uh,
Right.
and I respected that. I understood that. And he said, if you really want to make this movie, start your own studio. And then he sent me a very nice message and email that I framed, and that was amazing. I'm very grateful for that. And it was actually that advice where I heard, okay, I have to start my own studio to make this film. It still took me 10 years to make the movie, but
Right.
I'm very grateful for that advice. And then there was no real guidance other than that. I had to figure everything out myself, and I'm very grateful that I got to work with a remarkable group of people in Pakistan and internationally to bring this film to life. So it took a lot of work. I had to really dive into the craft of animation, understanding that, training people, and
Mhm.
then the few animation enthusiasts that were in Pakistan that were working with me, they were also able to train people and build systems, and somehow we figured out how to make this movie. But I storyboarded the whole film myself.
Right.
I sat there and I said, I'm going to do exactly what my heroes do. And I drew in actually way more detail because the team was so inexperienced. I drew all the backgrounds out in every frame, all the details that would be in the backgrounds. I painted a lot of the frames so that we would know what the lighting would be, continuity, costume color, everything. Because I was like, I'm going to leave nothing to chance. I'll plan everything out, and all we have to do then is execute. I drew a lot of the keyframes and the storyboards as well.
Right.
So it it certainly was difficult, but I'm glad we were able to get it done. The way I planned everything was that I knew, again, because I was so familiar with how movies are made and the team behind the movie that actually makes the film, I knew that I needed a lot of support on the production side. And both Khizer, who was the producer of the film, and Mariam, who was the associate producer and art director of the film, I knew those two would be crucial to getting over the hump of actually making the movie because it's not just Hayao Miyazaki who sits there and draws everything. It's the genius of Toshio Suzuki as well that
Right.
allows for Studio
Also,
Ghibli films to be made. So I said I need someone with a strong producer mind. Khizer was never a producer before this, but I knew that he had the understanding of what it would take. So it
mhm.
was with him and with Mariam, who was associate producer, to really help with the production side, get all the pipelines ready, get all the infrastructure ready. Of course, I was involved in a lot of the production pipeline building as well, but I knew that with a strong producer and a strong associate producer on board, that we would be able to figure out a lot of the things that hamper other people from moving forward. Once we had that, it was about finding the talent to come on board. I I drew prolifically for this movie, but I cannot draw everything, of course, and you need a lot of talented people to make a film like this. And so we began searching for the right people who could come on board with not only the stylistic understanding, but also the technical understanding that would go into making a movie like this. And again, like I said earlier, very grateful I got to work with a remarkable group of people. Our wonderful animation director, our wonderful character designer, and our supervising animators and team leads. Everybody had a lot of love for the craft, and
Mhm.
that's how it began snowballing. Once we began finding the right people, then we found more and more and more. It was still a very small team, but what actually got me through making this movie is Studio Ghibli is the peak of how great a hand-drawn animation studio can be. Mano Animation Studios was not that. We were scrapping together things. So I actually looked up to a lot up to Nintendo. And because I'm a big video game fan as well, and the way Nintendo made Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64, that they were just jumping into 3D video games. Everything else was sprite based before and 2D. But when they jumped into 3D, they had a team of only 15 people, but with so much passion to make this video game with the direction of Shigeru Miyamoto.
Right.
So Nintendo was actually a bigger parallel than, of course, Studio Ghibli, which think that they're just amazing. One day,
Mm,
hopefully, I can have a team and wonderful people like that. But I looked up to how Nintendo made Mario 64 as inspiration for the team. I said they had a much smaller team. They were figuring out so many things they'd never done before, and they were able to make a game that is so amazing. Let's try to be like them. So that was what we drew inspiration from. I had written the first draft of the story in 2013, 2014, and that
wow.
was the roadmap for what became the final version of the story. What happened with Jeffrey Wexler is when he came on board, I had met him at Studio Ghibli in 2015 and then 2016, and then I met him at Studio Ponok in 2017. He's chief
Mm,
of international at Studio Ponok.
right.
Jeff said, your story is good, but it needs a little bit more tweaking. And
Mm,
he suggested Moya. Moya was somebody who they have worked with through David Friedman. David Friedman did a lot of the English version dubs for the Studio Ghibli films.
right.
The latest one that he had done at that time was The Wind Rises. So
Oh,
David said, I'm busy. I want you to work with Moya. Moya then came on board, and actually, Jeff and Moya then came to Pakistan to absorb the environment, see how I had grown up, understand all the things that we would then be putting into the movie. And then Moya and I, for about 5 months, sat with the script and refined the screenplay. And Moya had a lot of wonderful ideas that we then put into the story. But it was a very collaborative process, and we just wanted to make the best story that we could. Nothing is perfect, but we wanted to try and get it to as close to perfection as we could before embarking on. I was storyboarding while we were refining the story as well. So it was a very stressful, fun time, but Moya was amazing to work with. Experience was very interesting because especially after 9/11, the world changed, and especially the Middle East and of course our parts of South Asia. There was a lot more fear and scrutiny and anxiety in everyday life. And I was a child. I was 9 years old at the time. I didn't understand what was happening. I just could feel it on a subliminal level, subconscious level, that something is different, something is wrong. And I'm very grateful to God that we didn't see any real conflict. It was happening in the neighboring areas, but you would still hear about it. You would still worry about it. And then the religious extremism that started creeping in with all of the bomb threats and other things that were going around while we were going to school. All of
mm,
that was a very strange way to grow up. And
right.
especially being a creative person, I was playing classical music and drawing and animating. I was like, what is my place in this world that is full of so much conflict and anxiety? And
Mm,
that is something that when I got older, I would say after like in my early 20s, that I started understanding the experiences that I had. And that was really the genesis for the story of the glass worker. I again, both the characters are different aspects of my personality. I'm a classical musician, but I'm also a craftsman, an artist. I'm not a glass blower, but I'm an artist and an animator and a painter. So putting those experiences into those two characters, handle their creativity and artistic expression in a world that feels like it doesn't need it. A big part of my life as well. And going back to how I came up with the story for the film, I would draw image boards. And I didn't draw digitally at the time, so I would just draw on watercolor paper, draw on that, and then paint everything. And as I waited for the paint to dry, my desk was right next to my piano. So while the paint was drying, I would go to the piano and start writing music inspired by the drawings I made for the film. I would
Mm,
write more music. The music would then inspire another drawing. Then I'd go back to the desk, draw another image board for the movie. And I kept doing that back and forth and came up with a lot of motifs for the film. And the main
right.
motif is this piece called The Glassworker's Melancholy, which is a suite I wrote in D minor. I wrote
Hmm.
that and I kept showing it to Carmine. Carmine's one of my closest friends from Berklee College of Music, and Carmine has a very strong understanding of orchestral music and has the same influences. He's a big fan of Koji Kondo. We both love Nintendo, so we love the music that comes in those games. And obviously, both of us are big fans of Joe Hisaishi as well. So I knew he understood the direction I wanted to go in. And
Hmm.
when it came time to actually start scoring the film, because it's one thing writing all the music, but then
Hmm.
actually scoring to picture, which is different. I
Right.
asked Carmine if he would like to come on board as co-composer for the movie, and he took a lot of my music and scored it to picture, but then also came up with a lot of his own music in the style that we were happy with, and just going off in another wonderful direction with him. It was very collaborative, and I think he did an absolutely phenomenal job. He had studied film scoring at Berkeley. I had studied just composition and theory. So both of our uh, talents really came together to be able to write this score. And I really enjoyed working on everything with him. He's a phenomenal artist. So much. I think what I wanted to do with those two characters was so show two sides of the same coin. And
Right.
what I wanted to do was show that no one is inherently good and no one is inherently bad. Everyone is human. Uh, Colonel Amano has his own views on what the situation is like and what his duty is. And Tomas Oliver has his own views on his situation in life and what his duties are and what his beliefs are. Both of them are good people. Both of them make mistakes. They're human. And that
Right.
is something I learned from Princess Mononoke, with Lady Eboshi's character and San's character. Both of them are good people. Both of them were trying to Lady Eboshi was trying to protect Irontown and make sure that the people there are safe, protected, and prosper. San was with the forest gods. San wanted to protect nature and make sure that the forest gods and the forest thrives and nature thrives. Industrialization versus nature was a big theme. And that moved me so much because I had never seen a movie like that as a child where nobody was evil. Everybody is human. And I just really wanted to try and capture something like that in my own way with these characters, uh, to show that no one is inherently evil. Everyone is human, and everybody is trying to do the right thing, suffering for the mistakes they make, and then having to live with the consequences. And both characters, for Tomas and Colonel Amano, have
Mm.
do suffer a lot for their worldview. Colonel Mano, with the way the war ends and the way they're defeated, his worldview is shattered and he has to find a way out of that. Tomas suffers because um, his son gets so wrapped up in everything happening with his worldviews that he can't essentially grow up, and then has that incident in the climax of the movie. But both of them are trying to do the right thing. And I think that's important to show their humanity. Specifically with Hayao Miyazaki's movies, a lot of people think it's just the way they look that makes them special. Especially in the West. People feel like if you draw in the Ghibli style, that it's you've captured the magic of Ghibli. Everyone is doing those AI trends where they're making themselves look like Ghibli characters. That's not what makes those movies special. What
Right.
makes those movies special is the humanity and the moments in between with the characters.
Mm.
That the spaces in between where you see them living their life, the moments of calm juxtaposed with the moments of conflict. That is what makes a Hayao Miyazaki movie special. And then what
Mm.
makes a Isao Takahata movie special is inherently the humanity of the characters. Things like films like Only Yesterday, which is one of my favorite movies that he's ever made. There's no big world-ending events that's happening in there. It's just a girl's journey to adulthood and how she's reminiscing about her time growing up. Those moments that they capture so well, that's what makes these movies special. And again, so with The Glassworker, what I tried to do is to try and take that feeling and try to put it into this movie with, again, my own spin, because I don't want to copy what they've done, but I want to draw what I love so much from their movies and try to put it in mine, because that's the greatest form of influence that you can have. Looking like a Ghibli movie doesn't matter. The feeling that is there, that's why they're the greatest animation studio in the world. When I was 15 years old, I'm very grateful I got to see the Murano glass blowers in Italy. uh,
Oh,
and see the process. And ever since that moment, I always wondered, why has nobody made a movie on this? Because the
right.
craft is so beautiful. The end result is beautiful, but the way
Right.
you get there is so amazing. It's like
Mm.
animation. Like you see the movie and the movie's beautiful, but the process to get to those beautiful frames is just as fascinating to me. Glass blowing always reminded me of that, and I loved the technical aspects behind it. So it was always at the back of my mind. I was always researching it. I was always reading about it. I was always watching videos. I never thought I'd make a movie about it. But when it came time to make the movie, I had such a strong theoretical understanding of it. That and music, because music is also a big part of the film. I thought these are two things I understand very well. I would love to show why I love this craft so much. That's why the movie opens with a 3-minute sequence of them actually making a sculpture, showing all of the different aspects of glass blowing.
Right.
And during the writing of the movie, I was also invited to Peter Layton's glass blowing studio in London. They were
Oh,
amazing because they gave me access to all of the archival footage that they had, but also speaking to all the glass blowers, filming them working on things, having conversations about the craft itself. I shot primarily for myself and the team a 12-minute documentary while I was there, just for us to research glass blowing and for me to explain to the team how glass works. Uh, because you don't get an opportunity like that, talking about how quickly they get it out of the furnace, how quickly they have to work with it before putting it into something called an annealing oven, where you put the glass in so that it doesn't crack while it cools down. Uh, there are different kinds of glass blowing as well. One is what you do with a lamp, which is this concentrated little furnace of fire. to make smaller sculptures. All of those little things I wanted to put into the film. That's how Vincent makes the butterfly for Elise, for example.
Mm.
So that technical understanding and research that I had done since I was 14, but also getting access to Peter Layton's glass blowing studio, talking to all the glass blowers, understanding the craft, speaking to them about it, all of that I tried to put into the movie. Reception at Annecy was really good. I'm very grateful because Annecy is the best animation festival in the world in Europe. And they have films from all over the world. Some of the best animated films. So to be one of those films, especially for my first film, was a huge honor, and I'm very, very grateful. The reception was amazing. All five screenings were sold out. We were part of the official competition, and we were alongside some of the my favorite animated movies. So that was a special moment for me. And I think what I want people to feel when they see this movie and what I want the reception to be is there are two sides. One is the technical side. I hope that for the people who are cinephiles and enjoy the craftsmanship side, I made a whole documentary that's 98 minutes long as the film, about how we made the film, called The Making of the Glassworker. I put that up on YouTube. I divided it up into episodes so that people can see the depth of all the research, all the work that went in this entire decade to make the film. That's one
Mm.
aspect. The most important aspect, and the one that I associate with the most, is I just want people to watch this movie and enjoy this movie. Because that's what movies are for. Movies are for putting you in another person's shoes and taking you away to another world that isn't part of your usual life, the suspension of disbelief, whether it's a beautiful animated film or it's a much more thought-provoking independent film. Either way, you have to enjoy a movie. And I want people to walk into this film, enjoy it, and hopefully uh, be happy with it enough that I get to keep doing this for a long time because I love the craft of animation. Walt Disney had this amazing quote that I would tell our team and our investors.
Hmm.
I paraphrased it a little, but he said, "We don't make movies to make money. We make movies to make money to make more movies." So I love
Right.
that. And that's what I want to keep doing. I want to make films and tell stories for as long as I can. Pakistan has so much talent, but the thing that Pakistan lacks is an infrastructure to
Right.
make movies like this. There's no real studio financing, there's no government financing. So the
Right.
talent is all there, but the infrastructure for an industry is not as far ahead as other places. So I think
Mm.
the most important thing, even beyond the talent, and there are many, many talented men and women in Pakistan who are eager for opportunities like this. I think
Right.
the future holds is for an industry to exist. At the end of the day, you need money.
Mm.
Uh, so I don't know what the future holds for the industry in Pakistan. All I know is that I've learned throughout this is my 11th year now with the film. So in these 11 years, I've learned a lot. And I hope to take everything that I've learned and try to find better, more efficient ways to make a film. Because making a film for 10 years is not sustainable. Uh, but making a film in 5 years and making multiple movies is much more sustainable. So I
Right.
want to learn from this experience and figure out a better way to do it so that I can keep working with the many, many talented men and women that are in the country. Speaking to you, take care.
Okay, bye bye.